Hey guys, welcome to this week's video. Hopefully you're having a good week. I am solo again this week, and Laura says hello. She's really busy, so you're stuck with me on this one. This is the first time you're watching our videos. I'm Carlos, usually Laura's with me, and this is our channel, our journey on Pico Island. So on this channel, you're going to be seeing us talk about our experiences on Pico Island, buying a home, living there part-time, between there and Canada, a lot of tourist information, a lot of stuff. So if you, maybe it's a channel for you, and if that's the case, please subscribe, all right? Hopefully you enjoy this video. Well, as the thumbnail says, this is a video. It's on island hopping in the Azores. And if you stay till the end of the video, there is a plus part to that, which I'll get to right at the very end. Okay, so I'll keep you in suspense. Anyways, who loves island hopping? I've been doing island hopping for years. Most of my trips that I've taken, I would always, if there was like the Greek islands, I would always try to do a little bit of that because I love it. And Laura and I have done quite a bit of that in the Azores. And being around Europe, I can tell you right now that the transportation system in the Azores, and in Portugal for that matter, the standards are right up there as far as ferries, for example, and inter-island. There's still a lot of people out there asking me questions about the transportation system within the islands, and I thought this would be a good time to actually put this video out there. First, let me tell you a little bit of information about the Azores. Not everybody's been there. There's people that don't know anything about the Azores, but maybe considering going in the near future. So the Azores is made up of 9 islands. It's located in the North Atlantic, between North America and mainland Portugal. Like I said, there's 9 islands. They're divided in 3 groups. The western group of Flores and Corvo, the eastern group of Santa Maria and São Miguel, and the central group, which is Terceira, Graciosa, Saint Jorge, Faial, Pico. Okay, so that's 9. When you look at a map, the Azores basically looks as very remote, and it is. There's nothing really around there. Very healthy area of the planet. So when people look at it, they think, how am I going to get there? Is it going to take hours? It's total opposite. Literally took us 5 hours the last time we flew from Toronto to the Azores, the big island called São Miguel, and then we connected over to the island we actually live, is Pico Island. And for example, from Boston, it's probably a little bit less, 4.5 hours. To go to mainland Portugal, like Lisbon, it's about couple hours, and you can go to pretty much anywhere in Europe within 3 hours, 3.5 hours. Okay, so it's well connected. Like I was saying at the beginning of the video, the transportation system within the whole country, okay, through all the 7 regions, is very organized, functions very well, and that's no exception in the Azores. If you have been thinking of going to the islands, let's say you want a nature kind of holiday, a wellness, a get away from everything, the Azores, like I've said in previous videos, it does check most of the boxes. So, but it is important to know about things like transportation. How do I get around? The time it takes to go from A to B, and I'll cover just the basics on this one, so at least you get a little bit of a taste and how it would be like if you were in the Azores to travel around in the modes of either by ferries, inter-island planes. They have water taxis. You could get a private boat to take you to a certain island that's there as well. So that's just a third option that you have. It's important to be aware that when considering inter-island island hopping within the Azores, for example, the seasons. Okay, so in the Azores, for example, the high season, or they call it tourist season, is pretty much between June 15th to September 15th. Okay, so those months, maybe even stretched a bit, will have the most flexibility. They'll have more itineraries, a bigger, a choice of scheduling within most of the islands. Okay. Also, another thing to take consideration is COVID. Obviously, COVID's been around with us for 2 years. It's still around, and where some of this is still not back up to par like it was previous. Okay. For example, I know that there was ferry that would go around all the islands during the high season. I don't think it's operating. I actually searched, and I doubt that's even running. So these are the kinds of things. I will leave the link of the main ferry line called Atlantico Line on the description. This way you can just go in there. All the updated information would be there. The best source is that website. So hopefully when COVID gets a little bit more out of the way, they'll open up more scheduling and within all the islands. So for now, I'm going to tell you that a lot of the ferry service that operates pretty much all season, I would say 80% of the ferry service is within the central group. Okay, like that I mentioned, those 5 islands. Now, in the high season, you're going to get ferry service on all of those 5 islands, and they're different lines. You know, they're in colored: yellow, red, white line. You know, those are the schedules, and that's how you're going to see it on the website, and that'll connect the islands itself, right? So when you have the all year-round service would be functional 100% within the Triangle Islands, which is the 3 out of the 5 islands in the central group. So between Faial, São Jorge, and Pico, all year round, okay? Obviously, in the high season, more frequency. In the winter, they cut back the schedule. In the summer, the Azores, there's a lot of festivals and people go within the islands. You know, the people that live in the Azores, the locals, they'll go and they'll get extra ferries added to the schedule just to handle all the people. So that before I get into the prices, I'm going to give you the information on the vessels that they're using right now. So they have 2 modern ferries. One is called Mestre Jaime Feijó. The second one, Gilberto Mariano. Both Laura and I have been in those. They're amazing. Then they still operate the two other vessels, which are the ones before these, the older ones. If you go back past, before 2015, these are the ones that I remember going to Faial, going to St. George quite often on these ones. Cruzeiro do Canal, Cruzeiro das Ilhas, okay? And I'll just stick with these 4, but I can still remember in the old days when we first came to Canada, the vessels were like, I don't know how many would hold 50, 80 people compared to these ones. These are obviously hold a lot more, and they even hold cars, especially the modern ones. But I remember one called Ishpalamaca where we came in 1974 in the winter, and it wasn't pretty. Canada in 1974, this is what transported us. Ishpalamaca was the name. That was the biggest ferry we had here. So compared to now, so progress, we have these bigger ferries. But they restored it. Looks amazing. Look at it. Look at this. A lot of storms this thing went through. When we crossed over to Faial in 1974, it was so bad it took 3 hours to cross. I was only 9 years old. My mom had Cesar. He was 4 months. My brother Nelson was 2 years younger than me. But I remember being inside here, looking out these windows, and just waves, swells around us. So quite amazing that this boat is here right now. Incredible. It took us 3 hours, maybe 4, where it usually takes about 30 minutes. So, but I remember that boat. I think they have brought it back to life, and that's nice to see that. So I mentioned the different itineraries, the lines. Okay, so I'm just I wrote it down. I'll quickly go over them. So right now, as you're watching the video, you can get an idea. For example, the blue line, it connects Faial and Pico. The green line connects Faial, Pico, and St. George. The white line, which is a fairly new line, if I'm not mistaken, they started this last season. It basically runs Faial, Pico, St. George, Graciosa, and Terceira. So this is the whole 5. So white line is the whole 5, the whole central group. And then you have the purple line, which is Faial, Pico, St. George, and Terceira, bypasses Graciosa, okay? And then I have the orange line, which is Pico and St. George. I think that one was just added this year. So obviously in the summer, all these are running. In the winter, some of them are running. So just keep that in mind. But that pretty much covers it. And I think from what I can see, the rates, the pricing compared to other countries that I've been in, very affordable. I'm going to give you a few examples on the prices of the ticket. And before I do that, when you purchase tickets, you have to give them ID, passport information, okay? Either online or in person. You must have that, okay? So let's see some of these rates here. These have been pretty steady. I remember paying this in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So a ferry from Pico, which is our base, to Fayal, 30 minutes ferry ride, you're looking at about €3.80, almost 4, one way, okay? If you wanted to take a car, you're looking at about 22 euros, okay? You have to reserve it. The ones that take the cars are the 2 modern vessels, not the 2 older ones. So you have to reserve. I think it takes about 10, 12 cars, okay? So you have to do it in advance, especially in the high season. Pricing, for example, if you want to go from Fayal or Pico to Graciosa or Terceira, you're looking at about 29, 30 euros one way, okay? And the car is about 55. Terceira would be the last stop. So to go from Pico, I did one here that would go from Pico to Graciosa, just to get the length of time. You're looking at about 4 hours. I remember taking a ferry with Laura from one year. We came back through Terceira, and we just decided, let's just take the ferry from Pico, spend 2-3 days on Terceira, and it took us about 2 hours. A really nice ferry ride over from Pico, stopped in St. George and Velas and Calheta, the 2 places there, and then carried over along the coast of St. George. Totally dramatic. So, and I think you won't be disappointed. I mean, even when you're just going from A to B, there's a lot of scenery. Sometimes there's dolphins and a lot of marine life that you get to to witness. Now, the new line that they've just added, so from going from Pico to St. George, from the north side of the island, one way €10.50. A car is 25 euros, it's about an hour, maybe a little bit less. So, as you can see, the central group is very well covered, okay? Now, there's also one here, obviously the western islands of Flores and Corvo being the smallest one. You can, one way you're looking at about 29 euros, okay, and a car 55. Just going to touch a little bit on pricing. Just before I did the video, I looked up some flights and it seemed to be pretty steady during the different months throughout the year. For example, since I'm on Pico, I'm going to use Pico as my reference point. If I wanted to fly from Pico to San Miguel, the big island, 180 euros round trip. Okay, and I look between June to September, direct, nonstop. From Pico to, let's say I wanted to go to Santa Maria, around the same, 180 euros. You would go from Pico, San Miguel, Santa Maria. Okay, also from Pico to Terceira, about 178. Pico to Lisbon, now this is outside of the Azores to the mainland, about 209 euros round trip, including all taxes. Okay. Pico to Flores, okay, this obviously would not go direct. You probably go from San Miguel and then over, 176. I know that there's promotions for the people that have residency in the Azores, probably even less than this. And if you fly, let's say you want to visit 2, 3, 4 islands, there are packages for that as well, discounts. So these are all things which will be on the site. I'm going to put SATA site, Azores Airlines. Their link I'm going to put also in the description. Feel free to go in there. I think it's good just to get familiar with it in case you are considering going into the Azores in the near future. Okay, with the Azores being more popular, these carriers are added. Countries want to do it, and I think it just adds to giving you the option to just discover the islands. If you want to see the 9 islands of the Azores and take your time, I wouldn't rush it. I would just say if you have 3 weeks minimum, that's what I would start there. And then if you want to see them all at once, and you can do it in less, obviously. It just depends how much you want to rush it. And when you're in the Azores, I think the key is to really slow it down a little bit. Okay, I think slow travel these days is getting more popular than fast travel. Okay, so and the Azores is perfect for that. We just love island hopping. I mean, the kind of thing that Laura and I really enjoy is when we're on Pico, for example, and we just wake up in the morning and say, well, let's go over to Fayal. It's 2 seconds. We can drive 20 minutes. Catch the ferry. In the higher seasons, about 6 ferries a day, and in the winter, I think this past winter is like 4. So there's always it's a lot of frequency. You could also do the same to St. George with less frequency, but that's the beauty of island hopping all of the Azores. Okay, because it's very attainable. It's quick to do. There's an ease about it. Just plan a little bit, okay, and a lot of times that's why sometimes I try to fly in when I'm coming from Canada. I'll fly into the big islands, let's say San Miguel Miguel and fly out of Terceira, and then I could work my way. And if I can, take some ferries, I will. I'm just waiting for the COVID to get really out of the way, so then we can do more of island hopping. Okay, and I think that's something that we're looking forward to do. Actually, another thing I'm going to add is that our last trip to Fayal, we went a few times, and I think it was in the winter, got pretty choppy, right? So we always sit outside. These vessels, you can sit inside or outside. They're set up quite nicely, the modern ones especially. You got a snack bar, bathroom, but sitting inside is just not a good thing for us or Laura. So we sit outside, but it was pretty choppy. I mean, you get to feel those waves, and it's kind of cool. And but most of the times when we travel, even in the winter, it's just nice and smooth, and it's we just enjoy the being out at sea. So anyways, hopefully when you're on the islands, you'll do some island hopping. I think you're going to learn a lot about the islands that way. So now we're going to talk about island hopping flying with flights. Okay, so in the Azores, there's one local inter-island company called SATA, S-A-T-A. So they fly within all the islands. Okay, now SATA is also there's another arm to SATA called SATA International or Azores Airlines, and they fly to mainland, to Toronto, to Canada, to US. They fly pretty much all over the place, and that's the international side of the company. Very good carrier. The flights are well serviced, and the fleet's very good, modern. And every time we've flown them, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, I can't really think of anything that would, I would say was a negative experience. It's been very good. And I love the new planes, the Airbus 321 Neo, it's called, and just love those planes. I think I've raved about them in previous videos, and I think it's good to have those flights because they are quicker when you're crossing the Atlantic and quiet. By using San Miguel or Terceira either as your entry point into the Azores or as you're leaving, this is how you can do, kind of organize a good island hopping. So you can come into Terceira out of San Miguel or vice versa, because from there from either of those islands you'll connect frequently into the other islands, all of the other islands. Okay, so third, Fayal, for example, and Pico also get international flights, especially from mainland Portugal. Okay, so I think that again, it's if you want to do island hopping, it's well set up for that. In conjunction with the ferries and the flights, frequency coming in from internationally, and then frequency within the islands. They got this set up very well. I hope after COVID, I know there's going to be some changes. They're increasing some, like Pico and Fayal are going to be getting even more flights, Terceira as well, and there's the demands increasing on tourism. And I think it's good to be well connected to both North America and Europe. Some of the major cities that fly into the Azores are Toronto, Montreal in Canada, and then in the US you have Boston, New York, okay, I think JFK and Newark, Sacramento, there's also flights. Obviously from Lisbon and Porto being the two, there's flights coming in from the two major cities of Portugal, flights from Madeira even, there's flights coming in from different places in Europe, England, like coming in there from London Stansted, for example. And just to list some of the carriers, some of these you might recognize. Obviously, I mentioned Azores Airlines. Also from mainland, TAP Air Portugal comes in from mainland Portugal. TUI, I think that's from Belgium. You have Ryanair from Britain. Delta Airlines, new this year, coming in from New York. Primera Air is also coming in from Europe. Air Europa from Europe. Binter flies in. They're a Dutch company, I believe, and they fly between Madeira and the Azores. So, and there's a few more. Just as a small list that I compiled here, and just to give you an example, that's just the variety of that exists of different countries wanting to come in to the Azores. I mentioned that there was a bit of a bonus at the end. I might as well just tell you about it because it has to do with flights. If you decide you want to island hop the Azores, great. But if you want to stretch it and maybe do the Azores but connect island hop as an extension to Canary Islands or the island of Madeira it's doable because there is connection points through San Miguel, the big island that can get you over to Madeira and to the Canaries. Okay, so, and Bermuda. Now, last year they did flights, I think 2-3 months in the high season between Ponta Delgado, which is San Miguel, and Bermuda. And I think they're operating again this year. That's one I didn't check, but obviously, again, it's another island. I mean, this is called island hopping, so I'm mentioning islands here. So if you have the time, you have the money, and you really want to kind of do Azores, some Canary Islands, Madeira, even Bermuda, it's all doable. Okay, that's why it's great to have variety of flights. It was never like this. Now it's obviously with the Azores being more popular. These carriers are added. Countries want to do it, and I think it just adds to giving you the option to just discover the islands, And I mean, I would suggest if you want to see the 9 islands of the Azores, then take your time. I wouldn't rush it. I would just say if you have 3 weeks, minimum, that's what I would start there. And then if you want to see them all at once, and you can do it in less. Obviously, it just depends how much you want to rush it. And when you're in the Azores, I think the key is to really slow it down a little bit. Okay, I think slow travel these days is getting more popular than fast travel. Okay, so and the Azores is perfect for that. I did forget to mention one thing, and if I didn't mention this, Laura would have killed me. She designed another baseball hat, and that's now it's a Pico hat, and she's working on a few other ones, and that's on the online store, which there'll be a link on description as well. And lastly, we want to do a Q&A. It's been a while, so I did go on our community on YouTube and ask if anyone had any questions. So anyone watching, if you have any questions at all about us, about what we're doing, about Pico Island, it doesn't really matter. We'll definitely, please send it to us either through email or through the comments. I'd really appreciate that. And now this is really the final. Okay, guys? Have a great week.